Thank you for tuning in to the UC San Diego Mi Camino student series. Today we're sitting down with Mariana Carrola, a soon-to-be grad who found her passion in a double major in education studies and public health and a minor in Latinx Chicanic studies. So to start us off, I would just like to have you tell us a little bit more about how you found out about UC San Diego. You have an interesting story, and I believed it included one of our programs called Academic Connections. So could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, thank you for inviting me. So, in my junior year of high school, I heard about the Academic Connections program just by overhearing one of my biology teachers talking about it. And I knew that the program was fully covered in terms of housing and that there would be university credits received. So, I was really interested in, doing something over the summer related to preparing for college. So, I applied and I participated in that program, and that really made me feel more confident about my ability to pursue higher education. We took a course, a university course at the time I took, it was marine biology. And so every day we went to class for a few hours. We had a lab and we had different scheduled activities throughout the day. And we interacted with students from San Diego County, but also from different parts of the country and the world who applied and were also participating in the program.
That's great. And it sounds like that was really built up your confidence in order to come to university, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up and where are you from? You and your family from?
So I was born in Durango, Mexico, and I moved to the U.S. at the age of 3 and grew up in Compton, which is located in Los Angeles County. And so that's where me and my family are from.
And maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what your high school experience was like and how it was that you found yourself interested in going to university.
So I knew early on, I think when I started high school, that I wanted to go to college. And the school that I had access to, I knew was like under-resourced, but it was my community high school, and I really wanted to attend because it was also in the name of my city. So I began early on investigating like what I needed to go to college. I remember I bought my SAT book from a thrift store, and that's what I used to study.
And how about your parents? Were they encouraging you to go to university?
I think that I waited to tell them until my senior year because since I was the first in my family to go to college, it was all too complicated to bring up early since I knew that I wanted to apply to a university and I didn't really know how that would work out at the time since I was undocumented, and at the time a lot of legislation was being passed to make that possible. So it was something that I just kept in the back of my mind as I pursued it. And then my senior year, I started seriously talking to my mom, which was a bit challenging since she didn't want me to go far away.
So I'm curious, did you get admitted to any other universities?
Yes, I applied to 8 universities, 4 UCs, and 3 Cal States, and I got into 7 of them.
And so what was it about UC San Diego that made you choose us over these other institutions?
I think that one of the main reasons I chose to come to UC San Diego was that I had previous engagement with the university. I wasn't able to visit any of the other campuses because I was never able to access them or my parents couldn't drive me to visit them. But UC San Diego, I had the opportunity through the Academic Connections summer program.
And what major did you declare coming in, or were you undeclared?
When I came in, I was a philosophy major.
Interesting. And how did you choose philosophy? I think that's an interesting major to choose.
Yes, I think it's because college was really new to me, and the only thing I knew for sure when I began was that I loved learning and that I wanted to continue doing that. And I remember in my AP European history class, we were just learning about different philosophers, and I was like, okay, I think that that could be something that I could pursue and learn a lot from. But very early on, through electives and through other people at UCSD, I realized that there was different things that I could pursue that were more enjoyable to me.
I was going to ask about that because you started off as philosophy. It's not uncommon for undergraduates to change majors, and you changed to education studies and public health. What was the impetus for that?
So I think some of the main drivers to pursue education and public health were that those were two big aspects of my life that I had a lot of questions about and that I didn't understand, like navigating education and healthcare, both because of my personal journey as an undocumented student and because of my family. So I wanted to be able to be more knowledgeable about those things so I could help myself, but also my family and future generations in my family.
Wonderful. Now, I would love to talk a little bit about the first year, your first year of experience here at UC San Diego. It's not uncommon for freshmen to have a little bit of a culture shock and take some time for them to adapt to the pace of the quarter system. So I'm wondering, what was your first year like? And if you had any challenges, how did you manage those?
So in my first year, I started off with the summer bridge program. And I think that had a long lasting impact on my undergraduate journey because it was where I became connected with all the other resources on campus, and I learned about how to talk to faculty. I remember when I learned in summer bridge, they had us practice going to office hours, and that was a brand new concept to me. I was like, office hours, like a store? What is that? But they made us practice that, and they told us you want to visit office hours to build relationship with faculty.
Yeah. I know that sometimes it's a little scary, the whole idea of going into a faculty's office and asking them questions. Could you tell us a little bit, what was that first experience like? Probably, I'm guessing the first time you do it, it's a little nerve-wracking, but then maybe it gets a little easier?
Yes. So I would say it always feels a little bit nerve-wracking because it's intimidating talking to professors, but having that practice through summer bridge really helped because it made it less scary. They told me that, I could go there to ask questions. I could go there even if I didn't have a question to introduce myself to the professor or to ask them about their own educational experiences. So I think that really, really helped me preparing even before I entered office hours.
That's great. I'm so glad that you mentioned Summer Bridge. It's such an excellent program, and I know that a lot of students don't take advantage of it. They're encouraged to apply, but they don't. So I'm glad that you did and that you shared that with our audience. I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the resources that you took advantage of during your first year and your time here at UC San Diego. I know, for example, that we have an Undocumented Student Services Center. And is that where you found some support and community?
Yes. So coming to UC San Diego, I knew that I would be really close to the border, but I was really attracted to the university, even though I know it would bring challenges in terms of my family visiting me. But when I found the Undoc Center, I was really happy because I didn't know that there was a community of other undocumented students, and there was staff there that was very knowledgeable about undocumented student challenges, and they supported us by connecting us to resources, scholarships, and also providing a space for us to be together.
What are some other spaces that you found community?
Some other spaces I used throughout my undergrad was the Raza Resource Centro. That was the second place where I spend most of my time, and the Women's Center.
In the Women's Center. So what was it about the Centro and the Women's Center that you felt comfortable there? What was it that made that happen for you?
So both of these spaces provide resources, provide a place where to study and with people that share similar identities, But going to the Raza Research Centro was like, it had such a huge impact on my involvement and engagement with student activities and opportunities, because I interacted with other Latinx students, not only undergrad students, but graduate students. So I learned a lot about, what other students were doing and what opportunities were available to me, but I also got a lot of support to apply to those opportunities.
Maybe you could share with our listeners a few of the opportunities that you apply to. I know, for example, the Centro does a lot with a writing collective and with research. Maybe you could share a little bit about that.
Yes. So the Centro's writing collective helped me apply for my first summer research opportunity. And I really enjoyed that experience because it was intimidating, like having to write a research proposal, having to learn how to maintain a faculty relationship and how to reach out to them. So all of those questions I had answered there, and I got additional support with my research writing, and that was really helpful to me. I spent the summers there, and then the academic year preparing for those summer research programs.
So what was some of your research on? What are some of the things that you looked into?
So throughout undergrad, I've done various projects. I think that the majority of them have focused on educational issues and access and the experiences of Latinx students. I did a case study of my school district that I attended actually in K through 12, because that was one of the first issues I was thinking about transitioning to college. And so it was nice to interview students and just analyze that data. It was all brand new to me, the research experience, but having it be something that I cared about and was interested in made me really excited.
And so I know that you got to present your research. I believe you went to the Knox Conference. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you tell a little bit about what that was like to actually present your research at a national conference?
That was the first national conference I attended, and it was a part of the cohort in the Raza Research Centro, a group of undergrad and graduate students, and we prepared for that conference together. We flew there together, so it was a really fun experience, because I didn't know conferences were this place where everyone gathered to share the work that they were doing. So I got to present, and I was really nervous, but it really helped having that team of researchers here at UCSD. And after Knox, I have presented at other education conferences, now ASH and AERA and NASPA, and that has really been really exciting.
Yeah, it sounds like you're an old pro. Sounds like you've done 4 or 5 research conferences. That's great. And so when you think of yourself, do you see yourself as a scholar and a researcher?
I do now. I feel like it took me a while to see myself that way. And just because I had a hard time identifying or defining what a researcher was, I remember I asked an old mentor from high school, and because I was already interested in pursuing a graduate degree, and they're like, don't worry about that. This is not real research, or just an undergrad. So I had a conversation with Gerardo, who was also, shares identities with me, and he really validated my experiences and told me that I was a researcher and this was important work. So I definitely see myself that way now, and it helped to have Latinx mentors who also are researchers.
Maybe you could share a little bit about your mentorship experience and the value that they've brought to you. I think that would be something of interest.
Yes, so when I arrived to UCSD, I attended a conference. I believe it was called the First Gen Conference. And there I saw Dr. Frances Contreras, and she was talking about the importance of having mentorship while being a college student. And she was like, don't be afraid to ask. And I really loved the way she talks. So I was like, she said, don't be afraid. So I'm going to go to her and ask her if she could be my mentor. And so she has been one of the most supportive mentors I've had here at UCSD, in addition to Dr. Gerardo Arellano. And their support has really, been impactful to me as a student, but as a person, because I knew I could go to them about, research and academics and, how I was doing personally. Like, they saw me as, a whole person and not just a student.
That's great. I'm so happy to hear that the First Gen Conference, which is something that our campus does, we invite all our First Gen students to participate, that you took away a little nugget of advice and you followed through on it, and it really paid off for you, sounds like. I'd like to talk a little bit more about, I know you're getting ready to graduate, and you've mentioned a couple of times that, that you've been thinking about and pursuing graduate school. So if you could just share with us, what's your plans after you graduate?
So after I graduate this June, I will be starting my education doctoral program at UC Davis, and I'll be focusing on education policy and school administration.
Congratulations. So imagine yourself coming right out of Summer Bridge. Would you ever, if someone had told you, hey, guess what, Mariana, you're going to be getting a PhD at UC Davis, what would you have told them?
I would have been like, I wouldn't have believed it. Like, I wasn't even thinking about grad school early on because I had no idea what that looked like. I was like, no, I can't afford it. I don't know. You have to write a book. I don't think I could write a book. But in my education studies classes, specifically with Dr. Francis Contreras, that was one of the first questions she made us journal about, and then kept asking us was like, are you thinking about pursuing graduate school? Why or why not? And then just like constantly putting that thought into my mind, I was like, well, you know what? I think that it is something I'm interested in.
Yeah, I'm super glad that you're sharing this, because I think a lot of first-gen students, we're not even aware that there's this thing called graduate school, right? And so I'm glad you're sharing this with the audience. Let's talk a little bit about your experience here at UC San Diego. You're getting ready to graduate. Congratulations on graduating, and super congratulations to you on getting into UC Davis's PhD program. I hope you feel really proud and accomplished. When you look back on your time here at UC San Diego, what are some, 2 or 3 really fond memories that you would like to share?
I think the community I have built here with mentors and peers, especially like having space to be together, not only for working on research papers, but like events where we had food and just being in community with each other. That has been, I would say, one of like the best memories I have, because sometimes like school feels very serious and like you can't always be a person, but being surrounded by like faculty and students and just like being together eating, I think that was really good.
I'm glad you mentioned that university can be fun too, right? It's a lot of studying, a lot of preparation, and there are all these moments throughout your time where there's fun, there's celebration with peers. So I'm glad you share that, so that our listeners know that you're going to come to university, you're going to have fun, you're going to learn, you're going to grow. Hopefully you'll go off to graduate school. So I'm wondering, just to wrap up our time together, what advice would you give to young scholars who are listening to this interview?
Some advice I think that I would have liked to hear when I was younger, instead of like being kind of like scared away from higher education, is that, you do have the ability to succeed in higher education. And I know that sounds very cliche, but like in K through 12, we were kind of like scared, like you have to prepare. And even when you get there, you're not going to be as good as other students because you didn't go to good schools. And that really put doubt in me. But after my undergrad experience, I now understand that like that's not the reality and that's not the mindset that we should be encouraging younger students to have, because there are many ways that we are supported and at the university that do help us succeed. So I feel like just knowing that, you know, you can do it and you will be supported, like you won't be alone while you're here. If you have any concerns, there's always someone or some place that can help you.
Well, that's so true. And it sounds like you followed your own heart and you asked for help, you connected to people, and you succeeded and you thrived. So I'm so glad that I got to spend some time talking to you and learning more about your experience. Thank you so much for being part of our series. I really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
best of luck to you.
Thank you.